right, hello and welcome to the first of hopefully many Munch's Make-Believe Band Dynasty Fantasy Football League podcast. Now, I am Justin. Most of you probably know me. But if somehow this gets out and people are listening to this outside of the league, then I am Justin. I am a member of the league, a co-commissioner of the league, recently appointed co-commissioner, might I add. And I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the league that we have here. Oftentimes, I will be accompanied with a beverage of sorts. Other times, I will be accompanied with a other guest. I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know how to do that right now. I'm in the very beginning stages of this, but if anyone wants to be a guest, please contact me. You probably have my number, and if not, then you're not in the league, so I don't know how that would work. So first couple of podcasts we're going to do here, they're going to be overviews of what has gone on, at least in my opinion. I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to give you my opinion as well, of course. Up to this point, of course, we drafted all the way back in 2022, about 3 years ago, almost to the day, August 1st, 2022, we did this startup draft. It took about 2 weeks, and we're going to go through this startup draft. It's going to be the first couple of episodes here. I do, as most of you know, again, have a kid, so I'm going to be, 30, 45-minute sessions of me talking into this cheap-ass microphone I got from Amazon, because, I don't have an audience anymore. As you know, I used to teach, and now I don't teach this year. I'm not going to teach this year because I'm, stay-home dadding it, so I don't have an audience to talk to and more so talk at for who knows how long. So I need that, I discovered. I'm kind of nervous about not going back to work, which is kind of weird, but I'm not going to have that outlet anymore, so this is going to be that outlet. I hope you enjoy. After the overview of this draft, which is going to also be an overview of, we'll get into that in a second. We're going to do short recap, probably hopefully one episode of what happened during the season. I'm not going to talk about big moves or anything that are made until we get to the preseason team recaps, which I'm going to go through all the teams in detail and give my opinion on those teams. Again, I do have slight bias here, but I'm going to do my best to eliminate that. If anything, I'm going to be harsher against myself, as I am no matter what I'm doing. And I'm going to be more optimistic about other teams that I see. Now, it's not to say I'm going to, slob on everyone's proverbial knob, but I will be critical but fair, is what I'm trying to be. So during the season, what I'm planning on doing is weekly. I'm just going to detail scores, the rosters that were put out, the starting lineups. Hopefully it'll be like a Wednesday thing. If not, it'll be by Friday, and then we'll just not talk about the Thursday game. I'm going to talk about any trades or acquisitions, really general football news. If there's a big trade or a big game that happens during the week, or weekend, or week, I will be doing that. Of course, I already talked about guests. We will be discussing that and potentially have guests on here. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's in the works for sure. And then again, I've got on my notes here, why am I doing this? Again, I'm a nerd. I love fantasy football. I love football. I love talking. And I don't have that outlet anymore because I'm not teaching this year. So I need somebody to talk at, and somebody hopefully will listen to this. And if nobody does, then at least I did it for myself, and I feel like I contributed something in my year off. All right, so we are going to get started here with the startup draft. Again, this was August 1st, 2022 that we started this Dynasty League after years of being redraft, and then we decided, let's try Dynasty, right? So eventually I hope to be able to have like a share screen, maybe, I don't know, Skype, or I don't have a video, I don't have a webcam, so I'll have to figure that out. I mean, if people actually are going to listen / watch this. I don't think anyone's going to, but whatever. Quick overview of the league. We've got 12 teams here. In the beginning, we had Yurden, Tim, Archie, Trevor, Justin, or myself, Seattle, Rahul, Orlando, Taylor, Dylan, Joe, and Nate. We have since lost Orlando. That was Dylan's stepdad. And we have replaced him with Kiersey, who is Tim's fiance, soon-to-be wife. A little bit of overview of how we all know each other. Most of you know this, obviously. All of you should know this if anyone's even listening. Yurden, Trev, myself, Rahul, and Dylan all went to high school together. From there, we met people like Nate, we met Joe. Taylor was a friend of Trevor's, I believe. Orlando, obviously, related. Seattle, I met Seattle was invited into the league through myself. It was a suite mate in college, and then of course we met Archie through Seattle, and then Tim, I think, knew Trev, but Tim was also my wife's friend and now my friend as well, sort of. Sometimes he declines my trades, and that's not cool, but other than that, yeah, he's usually a friend. Okay, so we really, in this first podcast, are just going to talk about the startup, and it's really hard to evaluate a startup with an objective lens 3 years after it's happened. Like, we'll talk about a couple of picks later that are like, yeah, that's a horrible pick, but really, at the time, it was a fine pick. We're not going to go through every single pick, I don't think. I don't plan to, but I do love a ramble. Just ask my students, but yeah, really we're going to go hit the highlights. We're going to hit the main roster, first 12 picks. I mean, your starters, and then your next level guys that are going to probably play for you. There were a few trades. I do have the trades from the first season listed on a spreadsheet. I didn't continue that into the second season. A little bit into the second season, but not much. Maybe about halfway through, not even halfway through, is when I stopped. So I don't have all of the trades, these specific trades, but we're not really here to talk about, what did Dylan trade in mid-season. That's for the 2022 season recap. This is just about what they did in the startup draft. So we'll get more into that later on. I also decided, as I was doing a little bit of research for this, I'm not going to go through pick by pick. I'm not going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go through team by team, and I'm going to go through position by position. So we're going to start with quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, and so forth. There's no so forth. There's just bench after that. But yeah, that's the plan. So I'm just going to jump right into this. Most of this is just going to be off the cuff. I don't really have that much notes or research done, but I did have a couple of talking points I wanted to get through before we started, and yeah, that's all I had. So we've got, what are we at? 8.5 minutes. Perfect. That's good. The bell's about to ring. I'm back in my teacher's zone. Oh, we got bell 40 minutes. We're good. So yeah, we're gonna get started here. Yurden on the clock at the 101 now. Again, if you didn't remember this or you didn't know, we did a random wheel, and whoever got picked first gets to pick whatever slot they wanted. So Yurden got picked first out of the wheel. He could have picked 1 through 12. Could have picked 8 if he wanted to. He didn't. He picked 1, of course, and I think that was a fine choice. You can't go wrong with the first overall pick. I would say if I'm redraft league, I'm not taking number 1. That's a poison chalice. You don't want the number 1 pick because it always messes up. Give me 1 second here. It's always a mistake. There's always the wrong guy to take at 101. And I don't think Yurden made that choice here. I think Yurden made a fine choice of taking Jonathan Taylor, but we will get into that in a little bit. Before we get into that, though, we are going to get into his quarterbacks situation. Now, I don't want to... Give me 2 seconds here. I don't want to get away from my little bit of notes here I took. So we're just going to go ahead and get into Yurden's roster. Starting with the quarterbacks. And because we're light quarterback league, meaning we only can roster 3. I'm going to just go through all 3 or 4 quarterbacks that you have. Starting with Jurgen, the number 1 pick. He decided to take Kyler Murray at the 501. He also decided to take Jameis Winston at the 16-12 and took Matt Ryan at the 20-12. We'll start with Matt Ryan. He retired this year. It's the 20th round. You can't go wrong with a 20th round pick. He did play that year. He didn't play much that year, but I take that back. He was a starter for most of the year. He didn't play well, but he was a starter. So you can't fault Jurgen for that. I think that's a fine pick in the 20th round. Jameis Winston is still in the league technically. He's kind of been not really much to write home about. You don't really want him as your backup. But again, 16th round, I don't know. Quarterback situation looking weak so far, but he did make a great pick, I think, with Kyler Murray here at the 501. Again, with every player I'm talking about, you have to put yourself in the mindset. This is 3 years ago. Kyler Murray is 2 years removed from being the first overall pick, or 3 years removed from being the first overall pick. He is, like a stud. I mean, he finished. I'm looking at the stats here because I have them. Quarterback 6, quarterback 3, quarterback 10. That's an easy fantasy guaranteed pick. I mean, he's throwing less than 3,000 yards, but he's throwing over 20 touchdowns. He's also running the ball a ton. He ran the ball less his third year than in his second year. But he still has rushing upside. I mean, his escapability is unbelievable. He's very difficult to take down in the pocket. So, no qualms about this pick. I am not a Kyler Murray fan, but that's just because I don't know. He's not as fast or twitchy as Lamar Jackson. He's not as good of a passer as even like a Baker Mayfield. He doesn't have the elite of either of those, but he's very, very solid. I think he's a solid quarterback 2, fringe quarterback 1. I mean, last year he finished as a quarterback 1, quarterback 10. So he's not bad by any means. I'm never going to say Kyler Murray is a bad quarterback because I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's the next level. But, I mean, if you look at where he was picked, in 2022, in the startup, he was the 6th quarterback pick. I don't think that's bad at all. Of course, hindsight's 2020. Jalen Hurts went after him. You'd probably pick Jalen Hurts over Kyler Murray. But of course, we didn't know that. Jalen Hurts only had really 1 year of football underneath his belt. We didn't know how long the tush push would last. We'll get to Jalen Hurts later on. But I think Kyler Murray is a great pick. Overall, quarterback room for Jurgen in year 1. It was fine. He had a backup. He had Matt Ryan as backup. He got him in the 20th round. I think it's a great value. Great value. Now, moving on a little bit. Not a little bit. We're moving on to running backs. Now, if you know anything about 2022 as a draft year, Jonathan Taylor was the man, the guy to go to. And rightfully so. He just finished off an 1,800-yard, 18-touchdown season, accompanied with 40 receptions. I mean, that just doesn't really happen all that often in today's football, today's league. I mean, you don't see bell cow running backs that also catch passes. He was the guy, especially after his rookie season where he went off for 1,150 yards. I mean, easy number 1 pick. I have no fault, no qualms with this. Of course, you hope he doesn't get injured 2 years in a row like he did. Really 3 years in a row. But he did have a great year last year. I had him in my big money league last year. Won me some money. So, 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns, over 300 carries for the first time since 2021. Fantastic pick. Now, I mean, for 2 years it was not a good pick. It didn't look like a good pick, but no one knew he was going to get injured twice in a row. So I don't fault Jurgen at all for making this pick. I think it's a good pick at the time. I think it's a fine pick now. Obviously, you wish you would have taken somebody else at 101, like a couple of guys we were talking about a little bit. But it's a fine overall. It's a fine pick overall. To round out the running backs in a starting lineup, you have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Now, if you're listening to this now, in 2025, you know Aaron Jones is no longer a Green Bay Packer. He's at the Minnesota Vikings. And A.J. Dillon is out of the league. No, he plays for the Eagles, but doesn't really play for the Eagles. He just signed for them. He didn't play down for the Packers last year. He did have an injury. we'll get to him in a second. Aaron Jones, though, at the 412, so fourth overall pick, fourth round pick. Oh, by the way, Jurgen made 0 trades during the startup, which is semi-rare, but I can't fault anybody for not making a trade because you never know what people are offering. Aaron Jones, again, you have to look at this in the lens of what was going on at the time. Aaron Jones finished the 3 years prior to the draft running back 2, running back 5, running back 10. And that's because he's a dual threat. He runs the ball and he catches the ball very well. And I think this is a fine pick. Actually, in the limited research I did, really got to this point here, and then I stopped because I had to take care of the child. But outside of 2023 year in Green Bay, this has been a home run pick for your running back 9, running back 15. That's a great output for your fourth round pick. And the reason I say that is because I have access to the rest of the fourth round picks, and we'll get to them later. But compared to the rest of those guys, this is a home run pick. There had just been a run on running backs that went. You could say, well, maybe you could take David Montgomery. Pound for pound, David Montgomery has been a worse running back, not in real life, fantasy running back, than Aaron Jones. Oh, Kenneth Walker's still there. Pound for pound, again, he is injury prone, and he doesn't really get that many touches that much these days. I'd rather have Aaron Jones. Oh, James Cook. James Cook, I'll see an argument. But at that point, you didn't know James Cook was going to go off for 16 touchdowns this year. I think Aaron Jones is a fine pick and a good pick. A.J. Dillon, on the other hand, where you pick 3 rounds later, I don't know how much I love this one. 7th rounder, really never contributed anything. You could have got somebody, I mean, even like, looking here now, Ramondre Stevenson has done more. Chuba Hubbard has done way more. Tony Pollard's done way more. Brian Robinson's done way more. There's plenty of guys that could, I mean, even Jamal Williams for a year. Shout out Rahul, we'll talk about that later. Anybody else but A.J. Dillon, he's not been good. And I really don't think he's ever going to have a comeback. But hey, at the time, I liked the idea of getting the stack. I think there were better options. I'm just going to quickly glance here. I mean, Devontae Smith went 3 picks after that. Jameson Williams went 3 picks after that. Cortland Sutton. Yeah. Other than that, though, it gets pretty grim. But there were other players to pick. Now, moving on to the receivers here. We had Jalen Waddle at the 301. We had Marquise Hollywood Brown at the 612. Brandon Ayuk at the 812. And Chase Claypool at the 901, which wraps up the starting lineup for Yurden there. Now, Jalen Waddle, I think, is a good pick. He was young at the time. I mean, he still is young, obviously, he was only 26. But when he was drafted, he was a rookie or a first-year player, and then he went off that first year. Wide receiver 8, 1,350 yards. 8 touchdowns. Since then, he's not really got to that level again. 2023, he was fine. If we're just looking at the stats, 1,000 yards. But last year, he was not good. Some of that has to do with the offense in Miami, of course. But Jalen Waddle will come good, I believe. I'm a huge Jalen Waddle fan. And really, I'm a fan of a lot of these players. But I'm a fan of Jalen Waddle. I think he'll be just fine, especially when Tyreek Hill eventually either retires or gets arrested or whatever. I think it's a fine pick. Maybe a tiny bit of a reach there at the 301. You could have got a guy like T. Higgins. But I definitely understand why Jalen Waddle was the pick there. And I totally respect that. Hollywood Brown, excuse me. This one I am not as big on. He hadn't really shown anything up to this point. Now, we got to think he is an 8th round pick. 6th round pick, yeah. End of the 6th. Beginning of the 7th. See, even up to this point in Baltimore, he hadn't done anything, really. He had a 1,000-yard season, 90 catches, but he wasn't re-signed. Or maybe he was traded, I can't remember. But he ended up in Arizona and didn't do anything. And it really hasn't contributed at all. And will probably be potentially out of the league in a couple years. He's already 28. Looking back, Yeah, okay pick. Again, I had to take Devontae Smith. I can't believe that I'm seeing this now. Devontae Smith. Oh, Jesus. Devontae Smith fell this far. And now I'm looking at stats. We'll talk about that later. But, anyways, moving on to his third receiver, Brandon Ayuk. You know, good pick at the time, I think. This is a ninth rounder. 8/9th rounder. You can't really expect that much, but you kind of can. Ayuk's been okay. He had a great year in 2023. He had a very solid year in 2022, but then battled with injuries and is probably going to start the year on IR. But I do like the idea of taking these three young receivers. I think Yurden had the right mindset when building this team. Of getting youth but experience at the same time. It just didn't quite work out, especially with the next guy, Chase Claypool, who, I mean, looked like a star, looked like a budding star, for being honest, there in Pittsburgh. Of course, he had a couple of on-field and off-the-field issues, and has not panned out the way we thought he would. It's been objectively terrible the last couple of years. This is not a good pick in hindsight. At the time, you know, you think it's fine, but yeah. And then to round out the top 12 picks, he picked Alexander Mattison, Jahan Dotson, Jalen Tolbert, none of which are probably on his roster. Maybe, I don't even know, maybe Tolbert because he's a Cowboys fan. I don't know. But again, you can't really judge him for these picks. Just like you can't really judge anybody for these picks because, I mean, we don't. Oh, he does still have Alexander Madison, and he does still have Jalen Tolbert. He does still have, that's crazy. All three of these guys are still on his roster. Anyways, the rest of this draft was fine. I do want to draw your attention to a couple of very solid picks. Really one. A little guy named Kyron Williams was drafted by Yurden in the 21st round. Fantastic pick. A rookie. No one thought he was going to do anything, and he has since turned into an RB1. Arguably, some people do not think he's going to sustain that, but I think he's a very talented running back. He gets goal line touches. He has a little bit of receiving work. He is a running back one, in my opinion, and that's a home run at the 21st overall. 21st round. Crazy pick. All right, Yurden overall, very solid draft, I think. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. I would have picked, I don't know, a bunch of other players, but now, thinking of it now. Back then, I thought you had a very solid draft. I don't have any evidence that I thought that because I didn't look, but I do think that's a very solid draft. Moving on to the next, and this is probably going to be the last one I do for today because I've got to go to sleep. Moving on to the 102, that is big time Tim Ross, and mediocre addition to the league. Just kidding, Tim. A good addition to the league. You know what? Let me. Okay, 23:35. Timestamp. Hold on. 23 minutes, we move on to Tim. I think it was 8:30 we moved on to Yurden. 8:30 to Yurden. Okay. So, Tim. We are going to talk about Tim's draft here. Again, he had the 102. We are going to talk about Tim's draft in relation to position. So we're going to start off with his quarterbacks, starting with Dak Prescott. In the 8-11, he also decided to choose Tua Tagovailoa at the 13-2, and he also decided to take Kyle Trask at the 2011. He also, that's it, that's all he took. We'll talk about the Tua draft pick later on when we talk about in-season. Well, you know, we'll talk about it now. He ended up dropping Tua for some unknown reason, and I picked him up and traded him. But I don't know how to cut things out. I would cut that out if I could, because it doesn't really fit the vibe of what I'm talking about. we'll try to restart this. Tim, you're up. Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask is, out of the league, I think. Still in Tampa. Probably going to be out of the league. Actually, I'm just seeing now he was re-signed to a 1-year contract, so he will continue to back up Baker Mayfield. Garbage quarterback for a garbage college. Tua, still obviously a starter, dealt with injuries, not a bad pick, especially as he's gone 13th round. And Prescott, excuse me, another guy that had shown that he could produce. In his tenure, he had a couple of 4,000 plus yard passing seasons, a couple of 30 plus touchdown seasons, and decent rushing upside. A solid pick, I think, especially coming off his 2021 year. He's dealt with injuries and horrific play. Generally, he's just not that good of a quarterback. But injuries have derailed him. God, he's already 31. That's crazy. Overall, Tim came out of this draft with the quarterback position. I think, at the time, fine. He had 2 starters, but seeing what happened to those 2 guys is not great. So you don't love that. Moving on to his running backs that he picked in the top 9 picks, because that is how we're doing this. Take a sip of my water here. He picked at the 102. He was the 102 slot here. He picked Derrick Henry with his first pick of the draft. Now, in a bubble, this is a great pick. If you look at it objectively, it's a fantastic pick. Everyone berated him at the time. Why are you picking a 28-year-old running back? Why are you picking a 28-year-old running back, number 2 overall in a dynasty startup? Horrible pick. He was just coming off maybe definitely his worst year since he was a rookie, or first-year starter, really. And you pick him? What are you doing? He was hurt, for one. He wasn't playing poorly, but if you look at yards per carry, he was playing poorly. What are you doing, Tim? Was the question. And a lot of people made fun of him for this pick, myself included. But if you look at what he did after that, he was not a bust by any means. Of course, Tim traded him for basically nothing. Which, whatever, we'll talk more about Tim's escapades with trading later on. But he finished as a running back 4, running back 8, and running back 4. And I don't know how he finished running back 4 last year. It was unbelievable. I know how, because he was behind a couple of, dual threat running backs. But, sheesh, man, it's honestly a good pick. Knowing what he did now, knowing now what we did then, knowing now what we didn't then, maybe is what I'm looking for. This is a horrible pick. Why would you pick a 28-year-old guy who is obviously declining, injury prone? He's been not injury prone, but huge injury the year before. But no, Tim made a good pick here, even though he didn't do anything with it, but good pick. They decided to take Ezekiel Elliott at the 4-11. This is another guy that I'm like, why the heck would you take Ezekiel Elliott at the 4-11? That's a terrible pick. At the time, though, he came off of a string of ridiculous seasons. But really, no more than looking at, not really. He had a great rookie year, had a great 3rd, 4th year. Finished running back 2, 13 was his 2nd year. He was injured. Running back 5, running back 3, running back 9, running back 7. But I don't think Tim did too much research with this one. Most of his points came from 10 touchdowns the year prior to drafting him. And since then, obviously, it's been terrible. He had a decent year his first year. That's only because he was relying on touchdowns. But he hasn't averaged over 3.8 a carry since the year before he was drafted. Not a good pick. I guess if you look at what was drafted around him, there's really no running backs. David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson was good for a year. Now he's pretty much out of the league. He wasn't even good for a year, actually. Walker, James Cook, of course, Dameon Pierce for a year. We talked about Chuba already. yeah, it's not great. And then to round out his starting lineup of running backs, he decided to take Damian Harris in the 7th round. Now this one I have some qualms with. I don't know what the... I'm going to say what the fuck you were thinking with this one here, Tim. Damian Harris did come off a decent 2021 season, I'll give you that. But he really wasn't the guy in New England, especially after they had drafted Ramondre Stevenson. And Ramondre Stevenson had played. I just don't know. I don't know what you saw in him at the 7-2. God, Tim. He doesn't not a pass catcher. He didn't hit 1,000 yards. He had decent averages. He's out of the league now. Objectively, this is a bad pick. He played 2 years. Tim couldn't get rid of... Actually, I think he did get rid of him. I don't know for what or when. And I'm not going to look it up because we'll save that for later. But... it was a bad pick, Tim. Sorry. And then as for receivers, he decided to take DK Metcalf as his 2nd round pick and Michael Pittman as his 3rd round pick. A nice little 1-2 punch there. And I really have no qualms with this at all. Obviously, they could have picked guys like T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore. At the time, DK was 24, coming off a solid season. Still a good player. I don't think it's a bad pick at all. Don't know how he's going to be in Pittsburgh, but DK, I have no qualms with. Michael Pittman, again, is another guy who had high volume, but never really has got it done. Dealt with injuries the last couple of years. Still plays through the injuries, but just one of the guys. I think those are both not very good picks. Just thinking back to what I was thinking then, they weren't bad. But they are not good looking back. Not at all. Sorry. And then for some ungodly reason, but Gabe Davis, the 6th round, Tim. My God, Gabe Davis in the 6th round is crazy, Tim. I'm pulling no punches here. I've been giving you the benefit. Did I even talk about Urine's tight ends? I don't think I did. We're going to go back and do that. Gabe Davis. Jesus, Tim. It's just a bad pick. Coming off of back-to-back wide receiver. 57? 57 is crazy to pick him in the 7th round. I know he was a Buffalo guy, but come on. As your wide receiver 3 is crazy. And then to wrap it up, you picked Adam Thielen. This is a whatever pick. I mean, you picked him, 10th round? Please don't tell me this. Jesus, it's the 9th round. Early in the 9th round as well. That is Ish. That's Ish. That's awful, Tim. No, you know what? No, I take that back. Not awful. There's nothing else there. You probably shouldn't have picked Damian Harris at the 7-2. You probably should have picked Ronnie Smith, but whatever. Bad pick. And then to wrap up his top 12, he picked Michael Gallup, Tyler Higbee, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. 2 of those guys are out of the league, and Tyler Higbee has been irrelevant in 2 years. I don't fault him for those, of course. Those are bench players. Going back to Urian, how the heck did I forget about tight ends? He picked Mark Andrews at the 2-1-2-12. Fantastic pick, I think. Finished as a 10-5 last year, or 6, depending on your league. Battled with injuries in 2023, but I mean, the 2 full seasons he had was tight end 4 and tight end 6. Now, he's never going to recreate the 2021 season he had, where he had 107 receptions, 1361, and 9 touchdowns. Never was going to do that. I don't think he's ever going to be ever going to be worth the 2-12. But looking back, it's a fine pick. And he didn't pick any other tight ends. Tim's tight ends here. Talked about Higbee, and we got to talk about George Kittle. He did take George Kittle at the 5-2, and that's a fantastic pick in my opinion. Probably Tim's best that we've talked about so far. Coming off a tight end 4 season, had a slow 2022, but had a lot of touchdowns, and then since then he's just been consistent. 1,000 yards, easily 1,000 yards, over 6 touchdowns each year. Fantastic pick. It'd be great if he still had him on his team. Of course he doesn't, because he traded him for Jesus Christ. I don't even want to talk about that right now. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, that's Tim. That's Tim Ross there. And that's 2 teams and an intro. And that's probably all I got in me right now. I am tired. I probably need to sleep. No, I definitely need to sleep. But yeah, that's 35 minutes. I'm not going to cut anything out. I'm not going to condense or whatever. We're going to start up probably tomorrow. I don't know. I'll probably release this one tonight, send this out to the group tonight. Who knows? And then I will do Archie and Trev at least tomorrow, and then maybe myself as well. But I'll probably do more of a deeper dive into that because I know what I was thinking. And if anyone made it to the end of this episode, I would like you to text me the word foliage. Text me the word foliage in a private group chat, private message just to see. And also, if you want to call in / just give some quotes or whatever, please feel free to do so. I would very much appreciate that, and we can talk on air. We can talk a little bit if you want, if you're into that. But you can let me know. So yeah, that'll be it for the first episode of this podcast. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. I hope I don't delete this, and we will see you in the next one. I'm out. See ya.